morning, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to WordPress, WPCampus. Sorry, welcome to WPCampus. My name is Trent. I'm one of the volunteers here. If you guys need anything, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you out. I'd like you to welcome you to techniques, tools, and resources for making WordPress websites WCAG 2.0 compliant. Our speaker today is Wynne. Dave has taught accessibility to faculty, staff, and graduate students, and he was a founding member of accessibility at the University of Georgia. He teaches web design and form building, and he is a web developer for the Office of Research Communications. He manages 138 WordPress-based websites and has been at the University of Georgia for 21 years. So, Mr. Wynne.
I have to apologize that this is an American slanted presentation, but I have added some world stuff too. So here's the definitions for disability. I like the one from the UN. If you don't know about it, UN now has defined what disability is, and they have defined that anybody with disability has the right to exist with that disability and be supported and be able to do whatever they want with that, to not be hindered by the disability. And so what I like about the UN's one is that it puts the disability on the technology or on the institution or on the physical surrounding the person, that for some reason that person doesn't have access to the information or to the room or to whatever they want to have access to. So it takes the initiative off the person's disability, which could be sight or physical or learning disability, and it puts it on the ownership of the person providing the services of that institution. Here in the United States, what controls our accessibility is called Section 508, Section 504, and ADA. And 508 has now been refreshed, and so the refresh you'll see here now refers to the WCAG 2.0 levels A and AA. If you want to learn more about the basic human rights, there's going to be a link there for you to click and you can learn all about it. And they have a lot of great resources on that link telling you about the rights for anybody in the world to have given accessibility to your websites or to any kind of technology. What if higher ed institutes do not comply to these laws? Well, the likelihood is that if someone comes into your room like this and they can't have access to what you're teaching, or they go to your e-learning course and they can't get access to your information, then they can sue you. Okay? And we have lawsuits every year going to great institutions. And they don't necessarily come straight to you to sue you. They go straight to the federal government and sue you through that. And then the federal government comes to your institution, and then they will evaluate the whole institution. So if a person comes to your website and they don't have access to information on that website because of some disability, and they report you to the federal government, not only do you have to rectify your website, but they will also go through every building, every sidewalk, and there has to be a compensation plan for the whole institution, physically and electronically. So you don't want to go there. You don't want to be that person who causes that to happen to your institution. Here's a list right here showing you the ones that have been happening. You can see famous names. One of the ones last year were the law schools around the country. The test that the law school used was online, and unfortunately it was not accessible. And so all the law schools that were using that product got sued. California You can see up there, community colleges also are being audited. California, as a state institution, was sued, and they came up with a lot of the stuff we've learned was from that. So for websites, what you need to do is be able to meet A and AA standards in WCAG, and you can, in the resources I have given you, all of this information is there. There's a checklist for WCAG. There is a higher level called AAA. You do not have to meet AAA, but you do have to meet A and AA, and then you also have to meet the 508 refresh guidelines. The guidelines, because they're federal and they're all encumbered the legality of making websites and electronic things accessible, are very complex. There's 12 guidelines, 61 success criteria. Again, 1,200 pages of information that most of us really don't want to read to make our website accessible. And so then there's good things for us to use, and one is WebAIM's WCAG 2.0 checklist. And we're going to go even simpler today so that we don't overwhelm you with all these rules and regulations. So I'm hoping by the end of this presentation that you'll have 7 tools or understandings how to make your web page accessible. We should embrace accessibility like anything else that we're building. It's just a part of the tool that you're using to make your website better. Okay? It's not something extra that's a burden, but it does make your website better when you make it accessible to all people. An example is that most of the people in my age group are becoming, the baby boomers are becoming older. My clients happen to be by default researchers. Okay? So all of them are not very tech savvy. Even a drop-down menu where you have to click to the right is too much for them. They'll say, no, I don't want to go to that website. Okay? And so that means that website, if I have that on that website, that type of navigation, it puts them off and makes it inaccessible to the people that are using my website. So when you're developing your website, you have to think about the end user and what are the things that are keeping that end user from being able to have accessibility to the information that you're wanting to develop. Another one is that our writers of our information love to write humongous documents. And they want us just to put that document right up on the web and everybody's going to love it because it's great research. Well, no, that's not true. The first thing that you have to have in a website that's accessible is that you have to have alt tags. Now here's a screenshot from WordPress, and they give you a place to put the alt tag whenever you add an image to your website. Unfortunately, it's not required, and so you can go ahead and add the image to the website, and then click it, and then you have a broken, accessible website. The other thing that you would like to do is name your title of your image so that it reflects what's in the image. In one of the presentations that we had, they said, you want to make sure that the person can or the search engine can find that image and it helps your rating in the image. We all have searches on our website. This is probably one of the things that breaks our websites a lot, in that the search has a search box next to it, has an emblem with a search on it, and we haven't put alt text for either one of those boxes or for the search icon. And so a good way of describing that is that you want to tell the person what they're using that image for. Okay. If you put in a Excel into your website, if you put in PDF into your website, if you put Word documents up onto your website, all of those things have to be accessible. And in the information that in the resources I gave you, how to make Word accessible, how to make PowerPoint accessible, and those things. But if I glued in a Excel sheet that they could download, then you need to make sure that you've done an alt tag to that document so that they know that it is what it's doing. Color plays a big role in meeting accessibility. If you're a colorblind person, 1 in 12, that's a lot of people. And there's 26 types of color blindness. And unfortunately, at the University of Georgia, red is one of our main colors. So everybody wants to make everything red, which is not good for a colorblind person. A colorblind person probably sees this as brown, the likelihood. Okay. So you don't want to use color to give a symbol to people. Okay. So right here, they're using red to let the person know that they haven't filled out the email in this form. Well, a colorblind person would not see that red. They wouldn't know that there's an error message there. And so you need to make sure that your error messages are not just color, but actually have text there that tells them that that form has not been filled out correctly. You wouldn't want to have just buttons in color without putting the text that goes with it. So you wouldn't want to click on the red button, but you would want to say click on the submit button. You can check the colors out on your site using WebAIM color contrast checker. There are other color contrast checkers that you can add in onto your browsers that will do the checking for you. But you've got to have enough contrast between the background of your website and then the text or even images. Okay? And so what happens when you put the colors in, it'll tell you whether or not it passed AA, AAA, AA, AAA. So you've got to pass AA. Okay? So you could pass for normal text, it might not pass if it's a light gray, but for large text it will pass. But everything on your website, when you're creating a theme to your website, you need to check all the colors in contrast to make sure that there is nothing there that will cause people not to be able to see the information. Structure is very important. Without structure, the people that have a machine that's reading your website have a hard time finding the information on your page. And so a lot of people forget that they need to put in structure. So you need to have the title, you need to use headers, you need to use ordered list on your web page, and you need to use certain tags and not use certain tags. But you see this picture here. If you went into the library and none of those books had on their spine the title of the book or anything about it, that's how it is on a web page when you don't have proper structure. Okay? It just looks overwhelming and they cannot find the information that they're wanting. So every page needs to have a title, and you can use H1 as your title, and the reader will say, okay, that's the title of the page, and then you go down, you can have multiple H2, and you go down through your page like that. Okay. Not only does this help people with disability, but it helps the spiders and Google Analytics, Google go through your site. Hyperlinks is the other one that gets done poorly on websites. A lot of people use click here. Now think if you went to the to do your taxes and you went to their website and you needed a certain tax form and all they put on their website was click here for all the different types of tax forms. It would just be click here, and it'd be impossible to find the tax form that you actually needed. Okay. The other thing that happens is that people put in just the URL as a link. A link needs to tell the person where they're going to. Okay? It needs to say to them, this is the reason you want to go click on this link. Using link is terrible also, because they don't know where they're going to or whether or not they want to click on that one. So you want your links to be readable, not too long, and it needs to have contrast and underline. So a lot of us are going away from the underline. It's a big thing, underlining your links. But underlining your links is one of the easiest ways to make your website accessible. If not, then you need to contrast the color of that link so it stands out to the person. And you need to put a information on the hover of the link telling them that this is a link and where they're going. So a hover or a focus needs to be put in there for the link so that if they mouse over it, it tells them what it is. Or if they click tab, it tells what it is. Okay. So I'm going to show you a little video, and this is about people who are, which is big in education now, is put video on all your websites. Well, if you don't caption your video, if you don't put a transcription of your video on the video that you put on your website, even if you link your website over to YouTube, you're still responsible that that video meets accessibility, meaning that it's been captioned and it has a transcription to it. Okay, so you're not protecting yourself just by linking over to YouTube. Oh, well, that's YouTube's problem. No, it's not. Now, the notable one that that has been fixed is Netflix. Have you noticed Netflix, all their movies are captioned? They were sued. Okay, that's why it's there. They didn't do it because they were nice people. They were sued. Okay, usually that's what's going to happen. And so we're the same way. We're coming into the video era of websites where everybody wants a little video up there. If it's not captioned, then it doesn't meet accessibility. Let's see if this works.
Hey, listen up to what I'm about to say. Captions help your content so many ways. People search words for videos they want to click. And with text, transcription gets your site many more hits. You guys need caption it if you want to. You guys need caption it if you want to boost your SEO. You guys need caption it if you feel it's just the right thing to do. You guys need caption if you want to reach more viewers, then captioning is for you. You know that captions benefit the deaf. Yeah, but that's not all. Do you know who's left? Some viewers' English needs just a little help. Yeah, and some wanna read along for themselves. But do tell, you guys need captions. Viewers want to watch your video on a train. You guys need captions. If they need to visualize the words that the speaker's saying. You guys need captions. If they like your clip and want to translate the text for their friends. You guys need captions. You're gonna reach so many more viewers with captions on your content. You got me caption. Now you know you want that dumb. So how do we make that real? You got me caption. Take your videos and find some sweet accessible appeals. You got me caption. We got the people, we got the tech. Just let us do what we do. You got me caption. Let's go out and reach more viewers, 'cause captioning is for you. You got me captioning if you want to see your ratings grow. You got me captioning.
Okay, we'll stop there. So you can go back and watch the whole thing. I think the point is made very clear to us that captioning is very important to us. You don't necessarily have to do it yourself. There's plenty of companies out there that will be glad to do your captioning and do your transcription. Warnings about letting YouTube do your captioning. YouTube will caption your video, but you really want to check the captioning after it has done it. We tried it out with the president of the University of Georgia to see what he would say in this video, and he would not have been happy if we had put it straight up. Okay, and so, but it is getting better. And I think it'll get to the point where it's just going to be second nature that the technology is going to do the captioning for us, and that we don't have to go outside to get that service done. What we try to do is, what we're negotiating in Georgia is try to get all the educational institutions to buy a package from a company that will caption our videos so that we get a good rate. And so that's one of the things that we're working on. The other thing that we're working on as a state is that we want to get the accessibility checker bought by the state. So all the institutions have the checkability running in the background, checking for things that are broken. Our sites are too big for us to know, and we've got too many people putting content on. I have this lady that went to a PDF class and learned about PDF, and she sent it to me, and every line of that PDF was a different rainbow color. I mean, it was just the nastiest looking PDF. And we as developers don't have the time to go and correct every PDF that's up on our website. And so that's an issue that we're struggling with. I think everybody that has a website is struggling with, is what do you do with PDFs and Word documents and things like that. As websites develop, they're becoming more dynamic. And so as they become more dynamic, then the coding and what we need to do to make our sites accessible has changed too. So it used to be that you could do just alt tags and do a few things and your site would be accessible. Now we've got all kinds of things going on our pages with JavaScript and stuff. And so how you make your page accessible with Ajax and JavaScript and things that are being controlled with software suite is ARIA landmarks. Okay? And ARIA is the way that we're going with HTML5, so that you have marked out your whole page so that readers and people can understand what's going on and where to go into your page. I don't have time to teach you that stuff today, but it's there. People are starting to use it quite a bit. We have websites now that are completely using it, and it works great. I'll quickly show you one. Ooh, I'm scared to touch that one. Okay, let's go. So this is our College of Ed website. Let's see. View source. Let's switch to it.
page, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, I know what I want to do. I want to do web aim and show you. is one of the programs that I use a lot. You can just put your URL in it. It'll check out your website for accessibility problems. Okay? You can add it as an extension to your browsers that you're working with so that you can check it. It has the color checker built in too. Also, they have a lot of support material. So when you pull up WebAIM, it shows you what's going on. You will very rarely find 0 mistakes on a page. None of my pages have 0 on them. They have 4 or 5 mistakes. I know what's causing them. We're working on it. So don't give up. So if you check your page out, it's got mistakes, work on them as you can. The great thing about WordPress is as you correct it on your page, it's going to correct it on all the pages that are using that theme. So that's the great news, is that you can go to your page and make a correction, and then all 15,000 pages that are using that theme will have that correction on it. Okay, but you can see here the ARIA label going here. Okay, spread it out. It's looking like it's doing a. There we go. ARIA is telling when you have a unordered list as your menu, it's telling them that it's a menu item going to it. Okay, it tells you that this is going to be content. That's going to be the header up there. So that's what ARIA is starting to do for everybody, is that it's able to label everything so that you have a accessible website that is dynamic. Okay, and you cannot have a dynamic website without ARIA. So basically what it's doing is it's using IDs for the things. So you have your search box on your website. You need to label that search box and tell people that that is a search box. Okay, and so then you put the ID search box and then you define what it is. Okay, so that they know what it is. Checkers are going to be your best friends. 2 that I put up here are the wave one, and this is shows you how it looks. And then there's the web accessibility toolbar, and that's what it looks like also. And you can see that it can do. It can show you everything that you need to know. It also is good for Macs and PCs. Okay, and so you can use both of those. There are back-end accessible checkers. They're in the resources. So if you want to spend some money, you can do that, where it runs on your server and checks your pages for you and lets you know what is broken on your site so that as you have time, you can fix those things. In the resources, I put a list at the top of a lot of the plugins. I'm not recommending the plugins. They can't, but there are several there that have accessible checkers that you can add to your website. I'm just starting to play with some of those on my websites. So feel free to look at those accessible checkers. And so WordPress is going forward with accessibility in the structure of WordPress. So who must comply? Well, if you're the builder of the website, it falls on you. You're the gatekeeper unless your boss is going to be a gatekeeper. Now, how they do it at the University of Georgia, the president gets a letter from the Board of Regents saying that all websites must be accessible. The president sends that all to different directors and whatever, saying you must meet this requirement. And then we are told you must meet this requirement. Whether or not you get the support from higher up is a whole different story. And so, the example is that 3 weeks ago, part of our team put a required training course up on ELC that everybody that did safety in the lab had to pass. It was not accessible. And so it quickly had to be taken down. Thank goodness the person who found it wasn't too angry and didn't go up to federal government, but was willing for us to take it down and make it accessible and put it back up again. And so everybody that's putting electronic information out there is responsible to making it accessible to everybody. So we have time for questions. So, yes.
Are there different guidelines for private institutions as opposed to public institutions?
That's a good question. Private institutions are not required unless you're receiving federal funding. So if you're receiving federal funding as scholarships or whatever, then you are required and the treatment is exactly the same. So the guideline is whether or not you receive federal funding. If you've got federal funding, you have to meet the guidelines. Good question. Yes?
So what is the status of the 508 refresh to WCAG 2.0? Because
Still in the works.
so a follow-up question to that, in looking at video specifically, with AA compliance, because that's what I've been hearing we're going to be expected to
Yes.
adhere to, they talk about not only captioning, so captioning a video is level A.
Yes.
AA requires a alternate audio track.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be.
Oh, thank goodness, because that.
So basically, 508 says that what my understanding is transcript and captioning.
That would be great. Yeah, we've found that we can get $1 a minute transcribing services. So it's very, I mean, when you hear, oh, we got to caption all these videos, it's not a breaking the bank thing. Now, alternate audio track that just gave me ulcers.
And the services we've been using are very reliable. They'll have a 24-hour turnaround, and there's a service in Georgia that's being used that does live captioning for a lot of our conferences. Yeah, and I put that resource in the resources. Yes, sir.
And is it the ability to turn on the caption good enough, or how does the caption have to be available?
Okay, so like when you go to YouTube and there's that little caption icon, they just have to be able to click on that. That icon has to be there.
Has to be visible.
Yeah. Okay.
For alt text and titles on images, does that have to be on every image?
Yes.
No, it does not. Because like I'm thinking about it like in terms of I have images on my site that are just interesting to look at, you know, and it's just
So
like,
don't put it there if you're not going to caption them.
oh really?
Yeah. Now there's what they call background image,
Yeah.
or background image that's just color.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. But you still you want the alt text to have a blank in it, so that the reader reads that the reader will pass over it if it has a blank space in the alt text. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to say that for all of our news videos, we have undergrad students who transcribe for us, and then YouTube is really great. All you have to do is have a transcription, just a text file. You can upload it, see how it breaks out the caption, and you can even take that back to, you can pull that out, edit it, and re-upload it, and it works great. They do all of our video and podcasts.
Yeah. We went that way when we first started going, just to get us till we figured out another alternative.
Yeah.
We went with work study students that were sitting at a desk that
Yeah.
did that when they weren't helping people. Another question.
Earlier you said that links need to have a 3-to-1 contrast ratio or an underline. What's that contrast ratio with? Is that like with other
The
objects on
background?
the page with the background?
No, I think, we're talking about links,
Uh-huh.
contrast against the other color text.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the background as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you have to ask. I mean, I just saw a website of ours that the person got carried away and made the background gray, which really changed everything on that page. The other thing is we had someone who just liked watermark kind of stuff there, which is not good.
I have something I want to go back to my web team about, and I want to argue that it's an accessibility thing. Our headers are the same color burgundy as the link text. And to me, that seems like not only usability problem, but accessibility. Would you say that was failing accessibility, or is there any rule about that?
So did you run it through, have you run it through a checker?
Yeah, Wave doesn't
Say it is?
identify that it's a problem.
And I probably wouldn't push it then
Okay.
at that point. So if Wade or any of the other checkers say it's not, then you're good. Yeah. We tend to try, and I think it's a usability
Yeah.
more, so you want your links to be uniform throughout all your websites. And so because we have so many different websites and people putting content in, I'll have people override the style sheet and make the link a different color because they think it's pretty. So they don't understand the branding and the consistency going through all websites, and that's the whole purpose. So yeah, I agree with you on usability.
Just wanted to share an observation about link text specifically. In your example, we're all dead on. When you put in the URL as the link text, it's great to actually use one of these screen readers to see what people are doing. And you'll see that when the URL is the link, it will read it out letter by letter. Very hard to follow. But the other corollary to that we found is that link text should be descriptive and also unique to the page. So when we have staff listings and you have individual biographies for each, or CVs for each staff person, it's not enough just to say biography, because a screen reader will take all of those links and read them in a list so that the person can jump to the next page. And if it just says biography, 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 they don't know which one is which. So it's good to spell that out. You know, there's a lot of nuance to these things, but as you explain it to folks and explain them that search engine optimization benefits so much from this as well, then they tend to go along with it because they want their content to be found by search engines. So.
Yeah. Anything that you're doing for accessibility, Google's going to appreciate and push you up higher.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
It's a lot of work though in the background, making sure that you take the time to put that information in. And we get lazy, or the person putting content in gets lazy.
I heard also that if you write something in all capital letters, that it reads letter by letter. Do you know if it does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all of our headings get converted to all caps. So people will copy that heading, paste it in somewhere else, and now it's all caps in the back end.
Does that happen if it's like an uppercase letter, or if you're using like text transform uppercase?
No, it won't happen with text transform because I don't think it's going to read the style sheet,
No.
right?
Right.
But so people see the headings as all caps, and then they'll go ahead and enter headings as all caps in the back end. Now it's actually caps in the red letter.
And in these testers, it will outline the page to show you what it looks like. So it'll do all your links and show you what all your links look like. So if you did biography as your alt text or whatever, it'll show up on the test for you, and you'll realize, oh gosh, I gotta do something about this.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Don't you also have the option of using ARIA to
Yes.
solve that problem? Because when you're using something, the way WordPress will generate a read more link, the read more link is always going to default, because the way the function is written is going to say read more unless you customize it and add a whole variable and all that. But what you can also do is just use an ARIA label to apply, and that it's an alternative, and that's actually why we're moving more and more towards ARIA and trying to really reformat it. It's one of the things we've been
Yeah,
working
that's
on.
a good one.
How we solved, this came up with our recent redesign because we have all these read more links for different things, and how we solved that to not do ARIA, but just use style sheets is when the read more is generated by the system, it actually takes the article name, the article text, and appends it to the read more, but the style sheet shoves that text off screen. So the screen reader will read it entirely to somebody, but the person visualizing it on their screen won't see, they'll just see read more.
And that's a tendency that a lot of people are doing, is shoving it off the page where the regular person wouldn't read that information. Question in the back.
I was just going to say that when you are using ARIA, you have to keep in mind that it's being read in addition to the text that's on the page, and not instead of whatever it dropped around. We had an issue with a Genesis theme with its new accessibility features when it's enabled. It was duplicating a heading for, I think, a navigation menu. And so it said, ARIA label navigation. Then it read out the hidden heading that said navigation, and our screen reader tester was like, why are there two? This is not good. And I actually had to unhook the Genesis function and rehook one that didn't include the ARIA label because it was duplicating what was already there.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're still learning a lot about ARIA.
Yeah.
But it is the way we're going to be going as we get more dynamic pages. Yeah. Any other questions? In back?
I'm wondering how, are these requirements, they address, hearing impaired and visually impaired, but people with traumatic brain injury that you can't tell when you look at them that they have a disability. But I'm thinking of, well, my nephew came back from Iraq, and he's not the only one with issues, and I know that just styling the page and leaving white space is important.
Right. So you also need to set up for people who do not use mice. So your pages have to be tab friendly, and you can do that test also. So I was just talking to a person, and they'd had their site up for 6 years and had never done a tab test. And so when he tabbed, it got to the menu and stopped. So you also want to have shortcuts built in to where they can tab directly to your navigation and directly to the content. Yep. And there is a widget in WordPress that will do that for you. Okay. Yes?
What's best practice for when you're using pictures as links?
Then you need to put in that description that this is a link going to.
ARIA description?
You can put it in the alt text too.
Text for the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are some specific cases where you don't need alt text, like if it's just a decorative image that doesn't add anything to the content whatsoever, understanding it, you can leave the alt text blank. But in all honesty, when I'm training all these folks, I would rather just say it's always required, and if it adds a little bit of unnecessary text to the page, that's better than them making their own judgment call that this photo of a person doesn't need to be counted, even though it does.
And you can pass accessibility with that the alt text is functional, but it's not really.
Yeah.
So if it's describing a logo and you say logo, but it really doesn't tell the person what that logo is, then yes, logo passed the test, but it really is not suitable. So it does need to describe exactly what the logo is. Yeah. So, good questions. Yes, sir.
There's something called the alt text decision tree. I posted it up on Twitter with a hashtag too. So if you just follow the decision tree, it explains what the function of the alt text is in all these different circumstances. It basically revolves around the idea that you are using the alt text to describe the purpose of the image rather than necessarily what's in the image. So if it's a link, you describe the link. If it's an image with meaning, you describe the meaning. If it has text, then you describe the text. And if it's purely there for being there, then you just leave it empty. But there's a relatively easy way of checking that, and that is if you install a Chromebox or any other kind of screen reader, and anytime you write a page, you just run the screen reader over it, and then you'll immediately see if the alt text that you have on your images makes sense. Because you'll hit the image, and then whatever it reads out, you'll be like, wait, that actually doesn't make sense in the context I put the image in. Then you need to change it.
Yeah, and what we did, which was very educational, is that we had a person with a screen reader sit, and we watched them go through the website. It was really painful. it really encourages you to do a good job, because I'm just amazed that they can get through websites with the readers. But they know how to use it. This person's been using it for a long time, but it still was unbelievable. So we're wrapping up. We've run out of time. I want to get you to your next session. Thanks for coming.